All right, welcome to another deep dive. You know how this works. We've got this stack of fascinating info you gave us, and we're going to pull out the absolute key bits, the stuff that really matters so you can be well-informed quickly and effectively. It's like a shortcut to knowledge.
I like that, a shortcut. And today, that shortcut takes us right into the world of education. Specifically, how it can help kids get truly, genuinely hooked on reading, for the long haul. And the study we're diving into today is called Classroom Conditions for Motivation and Engagement in Reading,
Catchy title.
right? It's by John T. Guthrie and Kathleen E. Cox, published back in 2001.
Okay, so 2001. And these researchers, one's a university expert in educational psychology, and the other's a fifth-grade teacher, so like right in the trenches.
Yeah, perfect combo.
They were trying to solve this fundamental problem, right? How do we make reading something kids want to do, not just like a chore they got to do for a grade?
Totally. They wanted to know first, how can we boost reading engagement, not just for a week or two, but for the long term?
Right, make it stick.
Second, is their approach actually better than the way reading's usually taught?
Okay, got to put it to the test.
And third, what are the absolute must-have elements in a classroom that really get kids excited about reading? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah, the recipe for reading success. So our deep dive today, we're going to unpack their answers to these questions and especially look at this practical system they came up with called concept-oriented reading instruction. QRI for short.
That's kind of fancy.
Right.
But it's actually pretty intuitive. So to kick things off, let's go back to their first real-world experiment in a classroom.
All right, set the scene for us.
Okay, so picture this.
Oh.
A fifth-grade classroom, 28 students, and it's what's called a Chapter I school.
Meaning?
Meaning a lot of these kids came from lower-income families. It wasn't some, perfect controlled research setting.
It was the real deal.
Exactly, real-world challenges. And that actually makes the findings more powerful, because it shows it can work in a typical school. So the first unit, they tackled science, patterns and cycles in earth science, specifically the phases of the moon and the planets. Pretty cool, right?
Sounds interesting, but I bet they didn't just, open the textbooks, right?
Nope, no way. First step was all about hands-on learning, getting them engaged right off the bat. They called it observe and personalize.
All right, I'm intrigued. What'd they actually do?
So one morning in September, the teacher takes the whole class outside to look at the moon.
Just to gaze at it?
Well, not just gaze. They were actively sketching what they saw, and each kid started what they called a lunar log.
A lot like a diary for the moon.
Exactly. And this is where it gets cool. They were encouraged to ask any question that popped into their heads about the moon, write it in their log.
Kids are full of questions, that's for sure.
And get this, they posted all those questions on the classroom wall. The students' own curiosity became like the guide for their learning journey.
I love that, turning those whys into the actual curriculum. So once they had all these moon questions swirling around, what next?
That's when search and retrieve kicked in. Now, the researchers, they made sure there were tons of different information books, trade books available.
Not just one textbook for everyone?
Nope, variety was key. Books like Living on the Moon, Moon and Rings, even a simpler one called The Moon Seems to Change, so everyone could find something at their level, something that spoke to their questions.
That's so smart, meeting them where they are. But I imagine some kids still felt a bit intimidated by those more fact-based books, right?
Yeah, for sure. Going from looking at the moon to reading a whole book about it, it's a big leap.
So how'd they bridge that gap?
They brought in what they call direct strategy instruction. The teacher explicitly showed them how to navigate these information books, like how to use the table of contents to find specific topics, the index at the back, and how to understand captions and diagrams.
Those are such important skills.
And it's not always intuitive, They also focused on key reading skills, like finding the main idea of a paragraph, often in that topic sentence, and how to summarize by picking out those supporting details.
So they weren't just thrown into the deep end.
Exactly, given the tools they needed. And because they were invested, they had their own questions they wanted answers to, they actually wanted to read these books.
That's the magic right there, turning a chore into an adventure.
The study found this huge jump in reading time, around 60 minutes every day devoted to this topic.
Oh, that's impressive.
Not even counting the time spent on those reading strategies. They were so into it, they were voluntarily going to the library to find more resources. Maps of the moon, you name it. Some kids had 20, even 50 pages of notes.
Seriously engaged.
But just having a ton of notes doesn't equal understanding, right?
Right. Got to make sense of it all.
That's where Comprehend and Integrate comes in. The teacher introduced concept mapping, a way to, like, visually organize information.
Kind of like a mind map.
Yeah, similar idea. They used planets as examples, looking at their size, location, temperature, showing how different facts relate to each other.
I like that, making connections.
And they built a model of the solar system, moon included. Students worked in teams, created booklets, and gave presentations.
Wow, so they're learning science through reading and becoming better readers through science.
Two birds, one stone. And hold on, they didn't stop there. There was this follow-up reading unit,
Ooh, tell me more.
a 5-week unit alongside the science stuff, but focused on literature, stories, books like The Wonderful Flight to the Mushroom Planet.
The sci-fi?
Yep. And folk tales like The Orphan Boy, and They Dance the Sky, which offered different cultural views on the moon and planets.
I love that.
So they were looking at plot, character development, and comparing the science they'd learned to these more imaginative views.
A well-rounded approach. Now, you mentioned a comparison group. What was their reading instruction like?
Another 5th grade class in the same school, similar reading level. They got more traditional instruction, probably a standard reading textbook, maybe a single science textbook, no student-driven questions or hands-on stuff.
So a more textbook-heavy approach.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the results after those 10 weeks, pretty striking.
Lay it on me.
The Korai kids, they're reading more often, exploring a wider range of books, way more curious and involved, preferred challenging books, even had a bit of friendly competition going on.
That's awesome. Engaged and motivated.
The comparison group, they were more driven by grades and praise. Not bad, but...
Not the same internal drive.
And here's the kicker. The Korai students showed huge improvements in understanding factual texts, interpreting stories, and finding information.
So they became better readers overall.
And more engaged. That's a win-win. So for these initial observations, the researchers started figuring out those key teaching steps that led to this engagement. 4 phases.
4 phases. Let's break them down. First one, we know, observe, and personalize.
Right. And it's not just a quick activity. It's about letting students genuinely observe something, get curious, connect it to their lives, their questions.
You need a person.
Those why moments become their learning goals. Super powerful.
If it's personal, you're naturally more interested. Makes sense. What's next?
Search and retrieve. Once those questions are out there, the teacher provides the resources, not just one textbook, but a variety of informational texts, maps, reference books,
Options?
and importantly, they teach them how to find answers, those research strategies.
So it's giving them the what and the how.
Exactly. Then we have comprehend and integrate,
This sounds like the more traditional learning part.
but still driven by that initial curiosity. The teacher directly teaches comprehension skills, like summarizing and checking your understanding. For stories, it's about plot, characters, setting.
So they're learning to really dig into the text.
And the researchers found this link between mastering these skills and confidence. When kids feel like they understand, their motivation to read goes up.
Feeling capable is a huge motivator. It's true for adults, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and the final phase is communicate to others.
Sharing the knowledge.
The students got to choose who they wanted to teach about what they learned.
That's fun.
In this case, younger 2nd graders. But the point is, explaining something solidifies your own understanding.
Makes it real.
Plus, it makes their learning feel valuable, They were celebrating their learning and even exchanging ideas on the best ways to present information.
I like that. So those 4 phases, observe and personalize, search and retrieve, comprehend and integrate and communicate to others. That's the backbone of Korea.
It worked well in that first classroom. But was it a fluke?
The million-dollar question.
They expanded to 2 more schools, a 3rd grade teacher and another 5th grade teacher, all using Korea for a 10-week unit. This time, the theme was adaptation in life science.
How do living things adjust to their environment?
Exactly. Different subject to test the framework's adaptability.
Smart. So observe and personalize for adaptation, what that looked like.
The 3rd graders, they did all this hands-on stuff with birds. Bird feeders outside the classroom, collecting feathers, even trying to build nests.
Oh, that's cool.
The 5th graders probably did similar activities, but age-appropriate,
Right. Got to keep it relevant.
The point is that initial sensory experience, sparking curiosity and getting those questions about how animals adapt.
Making it real again. And then search and retrieve.
Yep. Tons of science trade books, multimedia resources, all about adaptation, letting kids dive into whatever aspect they found most interesting.
Choice is key. What about comprehend and integrate with this new theme?
They focused on teaching, summarizing, and how to monitor your own understanding as you read.
Metacognition.
Big word. They use books like Birds of Prey, Eagles, Urban Roost for information, and stories like Wingman, Owl Moon, and Promise to the Sun to bring in different perspectives and keep it engaging.
A mix of fiction and nonfiction.
Exactly. And they emphasize choosing interesting texts,
Yeah.
things that matched kids' reading levels, had vivid details, covered relatable topics, stuff that held their attention.
Makes sense. Got to keep them hooked. And the communicate to others phase was there too, right?
For sure. These teachers also gave kids opportunities to share what they'd learned, solidifying knowledge and boosting confidence.
So what about the overall results in these new schools? Did CALOR still deliver?
Yep. The Calari students, they showed better reading comprehension, knew more about adaptation, and were more motivated to read compared to similar students in the same schools who weren't using COLAR.
So the positive effects held up.
They did. And from all this, they started zeroing in on those specific classroom elements crucial for long-term reading love.
Those 7 factors you mentioned earlier.
7 factors. All right, ready for a rundown?
Hit me with it.
Number 1, learning and knowledge goals. Organizing everything around a central theme, reading different types of books about it, helping kids feel like they're becoming mini experts.
Like a little community of experts.
Exactly. When learning has a purpose, it becomes more engaging.
Makes sense. It's not just random assignments. It's about building knowledge.
Number 2, real-world interaction. Using real objects, focusing on things kids have seen or experienced, connecting reading to the real world through journals, stories, hands-on activities,
Bring it to life.
like that moon observation.
Right.
Number 3, interesting texts.
Pretty self-explanatory, right?
You'd think so, but it's not just having books. It's actively using engaging trade books, learning skills through interesting science and social studies books, teaching kids how different books are structured.
So variety, relevance, and understanding different types of writing.
You got it. Number 4, autonomy support. Huge for motivation, giving students choices and control,
Ownership of their learning.
letting interests guide their study within a theme, using their questions as starting points, involving them in planning projects.
Like that lunar log.
That's a great example.
Makes them feel like they're in the driver's seat.
5, strategy instruction. We touched on this explicitly, teaching strategies like asking yourself questions, summarizing, checking for understanding, and showing them when and how to use these effectively.
Giving them the tools.
And having them discuss these strategies in teams, the teacher modeling them.
Equipping them for success.
6, collaboration support. Opportunities to work together, talk about what they're learning.
Learning from each other.
Reading and writing groups based on interests, different grouping styles, encouraging sharing within teams.
Like those team booklets and presentations.
Exactly. And finally, number 7, evaluation. Making sure assessment aligns with those learning goals. Focusing on effort and improvement, not just grades.
More holistic.
Things like portfolios to show progress, valuing the process of learning and using strategies. So those are the 7 conditions.
Quite a list. And the study found that KRI teachers were doing a better job with most of these, except for evaluation.
Except evaluation, yeah. They checked this by observing classrooms and interviewing teachers. What teachers said mostly matched what they saw, though there was a difference with collaboration support.
Meaning?
Teachers said they emphasized it more than was obvious in interviews, but overall the picture was consistent.
Okay, so we've got these 7 conditions for reading engagement. Now let's dive into how each one actually motivates kids to read.
Let's start with learning and knowledge goals. The biggie here is purpose.
Right. It's not just reading for the sake of reading.
When kids are trying to understand a topic deeply, reading becomes a tool for that understanding.
A means to an end.
And as they build expertise, they get to choose what they want to learn within that topic, which boosts their autonomy.
So deeper understanding sparks more interest, and choice keeps them invested.
Now, real-world interaction, experiencing things firsthand, just naturally makes us curious,
Makes you want to know more.
It leads to questions, discussions, active involvement equals better learning, and that initial excitement, it can even spread to new topics and texts.
Like a ripple effect. How about interesting texts? How do those play into motivation?
They feed our need to understand, that mastery orientation. With a variety of engaging books, deeper understanding feels more achievable, more desirable. It also supports autonomy, having choices, and allows for critical thinking when they see different perspectives.
So the books themselves become motivators and autonomy support.
It taps into those core needs for choice and control. Feeling like you have a say in your learning, It connects back to those learning goals, the real-world observations, the interesting books they choose. It's a positive feedback loop.
Everything reinforces everything else.
And then strategy instruction. It builds that feeling of competence. When kids have effective strategies, they feel capable of tackling challenging stuff, understanding it.
Confidence is key.
And it's boosted by the motivation they get from those real-world experiences. And it works with autonomy when they can choose what to read and practice those new skills.
It all fits together. And collaboration support.
Learning with others is inherently motivating for a lot of kids. Talking, sharing, working towards a common goal. It fosters those positive social interactions, allows different information to come together, and again, more opportunities for student initiative.
It's social and intellectual. And finally, evaluation. How does that fit into motivation?
Alignment with learning goals is key. It's about effort and improvement, not just grades. Using things like portfolios to show progress helps them see their own growth and value that learning process.
So it's less about comparison, more about personal growth.
Exactly. Each condition is important, but they really work best together. And the researchers, they looked at research comparing Core II to traditional teaching.
What did they find?
The initial studies, they showed those increases in motivation and how much kids were reading after those Core I units.
As out positive early signs.
And here's the big one. More motivated students got better at using reading comprehension strategies. But those whose motivation didn't improve, they actually did worse on comprehension tasks. It shows that connection between wanting to read and knowing how to read.
You need both.
And Core I is concept-oriented. The goal isn't just memorizing facts, but understanding how they connect to bigger ideas, principles.
Yeah, making those connections.
This is different from just focusing on skills, just reading stories or just doing projects. Though Core I might include elements of those, the key is that central concept that anchors everything. Giving reading a purpose, a long-term focus, directly linking those hands-on activities to reading.
So reading becomes a tool for understanding, not just a task.
To get a clear comparison, they did a study in 12 classrooms across 3 lower-income schools. 6 classrooms used Core I, 6 used traditional teaching, a standard textbook, and a single science textbook. The Core I teachers got special training, too.
Leveling the playing field a bit. And the results on motivation.
The Core I kids had way higher motivation on a standard questionnaire, especially that intrinsic motivation, that internal drive, the curiosity, the involvement.
So they were more eager to learn.
And how about strategy use?
Yeah. Did they actually put those strategies to work?
Did. The Core I students were much better at using those thinking strategies when they had to find information, understand factual texts, summarize, put things together.
Applying what they learned.
And those who used strategies more were also more intrinsically motivated, which makes sense, right?
Totally. Feeling capable makes you want to do it more.
And the training the Core I teachers got, it probably helped those outcomes.
Yeah, good teaching matters. Now, beyond individual conditions, the researchers talked about qualities of the overall Core I or environment.
4 key qualities. First, multiplicity.
Lots of pieces working together.
It's not just one thing. It's a whole set of 7 factors.
Makes sense.
2, integration. How connected these conditions are. Like learning goals and choices, they're not separate. They work together.
A system, not just random elements.
3, simultaneity. The timing these conditions often happen at the same time. You might have kids interacting with objects, which sparks questions, guiding their research while the teacher's showing them a strategy.
Dynamic learning.
And finally, sufficiency. The idea that when these conditions are established well, they create an environment that's enough to reliably lead to motivation and engagement and ultimately better learning outcomes.
So it's about creating the right conditions, and the learning will follow.
They define sufficiency as a full set of conditions that, when they work well, lead to that motivation and engagement.
Makes sense.
And they use this analysis by synthesis approach, looking at the end result, reading comprehension, and examining how all the classroom conditions contributed to it.
Taking a holistic view.
Their findings suggest this set of 7 conditions is sufficient, but they also say the study doesn't prove every single one is absolutely essential on its own. It's likely the combination and the interactions that matter most.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
So what's the big takeaway?
What should our listeners be thinking about?
Building a love for reading, it's not a quick fix. It's about intentionally creating and maintaining a rich learning environment over time.
No shortcuts, but there's a roadmap.
Exactly. And the good news. This motivating and effective environment can be created using the Core I model and those 7 conditions: learning goals, real-world interaction, interesting texts, autonomy support, strategy instruction, collaboration, and aligned evaluation.
It's a recipe for
To
success.
see a real impact, they recommend implementing this in a substantial unit, at least 10 weeks, ideally making it part of the classroom culture year-round.
So as you think about all this, consider how these principles might apply not just to reading in classrooms, but to your own learning. Any areas where you're seeking deeper, more sustained interest.
What context can you build for yourself?
What a great question to ponder. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.